I'm Ted Berg for SNY.TV. Joining me in the studio is Brian Bassett from thejetsblog.com for a little bit of an NFL draft preview. Brian, usually we talk about, should the Jets draft, for need, or should they go for the best player available? This season, they've got so many needs that pretty much if they take the best player available, it's probably going to fill a hole.
Absolutely. There are a couple places. Quarterback, they probably don't want to draft. Corner, not necessarily. Maybe defensive tackle, they could be persuaded into that. But for the most part, those are positions that they would probably stay away from. But for the most part, everything else, outside linebacker, even inside linebacker, wide receiver, offensive line, tight end, I mean, you name it, they could take a guy.
So there are a few sexy names in this draft. Is there any chance they trade up for one of them?
I could definitely see them trading up for a couple guys. The two most notably would be Trent Richardson, and then the other one would be Melvin Ingram. Trent Richardson is the running back. He's the guy that everybody says is just a phenomenal athlete. They say he might be the best athlete in this draft, but he's a running back, so at the end of the day, his value is lowered, and everyone expects him to go top 5, but he might not. Ingram, on the other hand, is the outside linebacker. He's very versatile defensive end, outside linebacker. Very versatile. Rex likes him like an Adalius Thomas like he had in the Ravens.
You gave me a list of guys you thought the Jets might target. There are a bunch of outside linebackers here. You think that is a strength of this draft or a particular need of the Jets?
I think it's definitely a strength of the draft, but I also think it's a need for the team. So if they're sitting at 16 and they just stay there and a guy like Upshaw falls to them, or Copels, or some people are talking about Chandler Jones. If any of those guys were to fall to them, I think they'd be happy to take those guys, and that would really turbocharge their pass rush.
Well, it sounds like Santonio Holmes is going to be back. They could probably use another wide receiver to complement him. Anybody there who might fall to 16 that could help them there?
Yeah, Michael Floyd is the name, but it sounds like he might be going higher. He's kind of moving higher this week, so we'll see what happens with him. But Stephen Hill is another name that people talk about. People seem to be raving about him. Not a lot of production in college, but a good player. I would say the Jets would probably draft someone in the later rounds, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round at the wide receiver spot.
Like you said, they're all set at cornerback. They could definitely use safety help. We said it every single week this year. Any names there that might help them out?
Mark Barron is the most notable name. Mark Barron is a great player. He has been used as a strong safety, kind of used up around the line of scrimmage, would be a great extra, pass rusher and great in the box. The issue with him is he able to play coverage in Rex's scheme? He hasn't really done it in college. He says he can do it. But, the Jets will have watched the tape and they'll know if he could move into that system. I think he could, but people are talking about him as high as 10 to the Bills, which I think is a smokescreen, but also the Cowboys are another name to look out for Mark Barron.
How do you think Rex and Tannenbaum stack up as drafters?
I think one of the best strengths of Mike Tannenbaum, everybody says he's not a scout historically. His best strength is value. He understands value. He knows where values lie. I mean, with Darrelle Revis and other guys that he's drafted in the past, he's proven that he knows where, when deals are coming, like if a guy slips a certain point, he's willing to go up and get those guys. So I think he's great at that. I think Rex Ryan is a great talent evaluator in terms of and knowing what fits his scheme, specifically defense. He knows what he needs to run his defense, and he needs guys to stop the run and then go after the pass. And we're now, 3-4 years in his regime. He's stopped the run very well. It's time for him to get some pass rushers.
I think the frustrating thing, you mentioned value, and I think the frustrating thing in trying to predict the NFL draft is that, you kind of have to assume Mike Tannenbaum knows a little bit more about the value part of it than we do. And you see, a guy gets drafted and half the fans are rah, and half the fans are rah. And then you don't find out how that guy is or whether it was a smart pick until like 3 years later. You know the guy is all right 6 months later, but you don't find out, you don't really know, how that pick stacks up to the rest of the picks for years.
You're right, and I mean, I think that draft grades are kind of a silly thing, 2 days after the draft ends. We really don't know how these players are going to project. Obviously, you want guys that are going to work in your system, and that's what the Jets have to look for. So on offense, it's guys that are either going to ground and pound or stretch the field in the passing game. On defense, it's stop the run and then rush the pass, and if they get some guys late at cornerback, defend the pass.
And for the Jets right now, they don't really have the luxury of trying to build for the future with this team. You want guys who can help them soon. They
do, and I think one of the things that Tannenbaum did say is he's really looking at the 2010 draft class. So that's Kyle Wilson and Vlad Dukas, those kind of guys to step it up this year. So I think you're going to get some guys internally coming up. You're going to get 10 draft picks is what they have going in today. They're going to get some great players who they think can step into their scheme and immediately make help this team out.
Brian, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Remember, check out Brian tonight on Jets Nation and SNY at midnight, and follow along with the draft at thejetsblog.com.